Good morning and welcome to Our Issues Milwaukee. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. Our focus this morning will begin on Alverno College. It's one of the nation's largest Catholic women's colleges located here in Milwaukee. It was founded by the School Sisters of St. Francis in 1887. It takes its name from a mountain in Italy, and its students are reminded that the view from the mountaintop is unlimited. My first guest is Dr. Jodi Eastberg. She serves as the Executive Director of the Alverno College Research Center for Women and Girls. It provides research that supports the understanding and improvement of the lives of women and girls. How are you, Dr. Eastberg?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. And I kind of gave an idea of what the Alverno College Research Center for Women and Girls is about, but tell us more, please.
Sure. The Research Center for Women and Girls was actually founded in 1970, so we've been around for a long time. And our focus is on producing research and also programming and sometimes evaluations of programs that are focused on the lives of women and girls, really in an effort to improve the lives of women and girls in our state, but also nationally and internationally.
And you released just recently your fourth report on the status of girls in Wisconsin as part of Alverno's continued commitment to raise awareness regarding issues and challenges that impact girls right here in our state. So what exactly does the 2018-19 report tell us?
So the 2018-19 Status of Girls in Wisconsin report is meant to be a snapshot, a picture, how are our girls doing in Wisconsin? And so we cover a lot of information, from demographic information, just how many girls are there, and what sort of demographic information as far as race and ethnicity are we seeing changes in that way. So for example, Wisconsin is getting more diverse like the nation, and so you see larger percentages of girls of color, especially Latina girls in our community. But then it covers all different types of topics and issues such as physical health, mental health, media use, educational outcomes. We have a section on sexual violence as well as other forms of substance abuse. So it covers a full array of information, really as much as we can find and tell you about girls so that we get a picture of how they're doing.
Yeah, and like you said, there's a plethora of scenarios there, but we're going to break down just a couple of them. You collected data on young women between the ages of 10 and 19, right?
Right, so most of the data is about girls 10 to 19. Some of the areas, like the demographic information from census data, we can tell you, how many girls there are at birth to 19. And some of the issues we push into college age, like interest in educational attainment. We want to see what's it like when they go to college or when they turn 18 as far as political engagement and voting.
What's great about this really is that you don't just do this report and just say here are the numbers. Really, these numbers are used for a number of different things. You have actually encouraged other universities and colleges nationwide to follow your lead in presenting data to improve the lives of girls, but you also have local organizations who really look at this and pretty much put their programming and their goals around what they realize the issues are.
Exactly. We're really happy to have partners like the Girl Scouts, for example, who assist in this project. But what we want to do is get the information out so that people at the individual level, the organizational level, and the community level can all respond to the issues. And really, it's a report about girls, but there's work to do for all of us. And so, for example, getting this information out in front of donors, for example, so that they can make decisions about where their donations are going and the organizations that they need to be supporting to make change.
Great stuff. And let's talk about some of this data. There's some good news and some not so good news. So the Alverno report says the status of girls in Wisconsin reveals a number of persistent, troubling patterns for Wisconsin girls, especially in the areas of sexual violence and human trafficking. And we've talked about many times on this show how human trafficking in association to Milwaukee, we are considered kind of like a mecca, and the numbers are showing that vast majority of sex offenses committed in 2017 were against girls. So let's talk about this. I think what bothered me most is that there's a high percentage of girls of color who are being affected by sex trafficking and sexual violence. So it estimated that 340 people under the age of 25 are victims of sex trafficking in our city. And of these, 97% were female, 65% of them were African American. So we don't want any numbers with any demographic, of course, but why are the numbers so high for black girls?
I think that you can look at other factors that kind of emerge in the report. So 1 in 5 girls in Wisconsin, not even based on race, is living in poverty, but the rates are much greater for girls of color. And so I think we have to think about the structures and support around black girls in our community in order to think about a problem like this. So the survey that we looked at was done by the Medical College of Wisconsin. That data showed that, for example, girls who are living in group homes or maybe have unstable family situations are more likely to find themselves under the influence of someone who's going to draw them into sex trafficking. So I think it's the issue is around are looking at all of these factors that kind of build together. Girls who have maybe a parent who is deceased or is in jail, those girls are more likely to find themselves in the snares of sex trafficking. And so whatever we can do really to support our girls in our community here in Milwaukee is really important, but also really thinking about those networks. Who do they turn to if they're homeless, for example? So where are they going to go? If they're in a group home, who's making sure that they're coming home at night and that they have the appropriate kinds of like after-school activities to do, et cetera. So I think that that's one issue, but then I think we also have to think about, again, we don't want to place this on the girls themselves. We have to think about it as a community and how we're supporting them. So the Department of Justice in Wisconsin is really making an effort around this. How do police officers make arrests around this issue? How do they identify girls who are really in trouble as far as being trafficked, and make sure, and also healthcare workers, these girls are oftentimes will find themselves in a hospital or in some sort of medical setting. Can they identify what's going on with the girls? Can we have the conversation with the girls to find a way for them to get out of these situations?
Yeah, we've talked about that, how so many different people from different occupations, maybe even if you're, you know, a person who works for the cable company and you go into a home and you kind of see something that's a little different, they're teaching employees and different people, airline stewardess, how to recognize if someone is a victim of sex trafficking. So all of these things are so important, and the research that you present really helps in all of those efforts. Yeah,
and there are amazing organizations here, like Exploit No More is a great organization. They have a wonderful resource page that we can all go to actually get that training and that information about how to identify girls and young men who are finding themselves in this situation.
Absolutely. So one of the most interesting findings with all your research, and I think this is probably, you know, all of those parents who are watching, man, because things have just changed so much, and I'd love to have a conversation about the data that you came up with in 1970 versus 2019. But the findings dealing with TV, online and social media engagement, all of these things really play a huge role with young girls today.
They do.
And older girls.
Yeah, all of
them. Yeah, all of us.
So we know from many studies that girls are really influenced by media in really strong ways. It plays a big part in their self-understanding, their body image, for example. So for the first time since we've been doing this report, girls are reporting more time, so the way the question goes is it's 3 or more hours per day. So they're reporting more time on devices like computers and video games than boys for the first time. It's a large percentage.
I'm surprised. I thought boys would be on video games longer. My goodness.
And so we know that girls are on their devices. We also know from a National Pew study the girls are more likely to be on sites that have kind of that visual presentation, so Instagram or Snapchat. So this is something that they're being driven to. They put their images out there. Now, whether or not these technologies are good or bad, the girls themselves are ambivalent. Some say it's great, some say it's, you know, a difficult space, some say there's good things and bad things happening in those spaces. But we know that over 30% of 9th grade girls are reporting cyberbullying, for example. So we know 1 in 3 girls is going to go into that kind of space and find themselves facing some real challenges online. So it is something we want to watch.
And like you said, it's not just, you know, girls. There are grown men and women who are affected by social media, you know, counting likes and versus loves, you know. So
I know,
it's just really amazing
how.
how.
And I think, like, you know, when we think about this girls study, it's something where what we understand about girls and the things that we do with girls become their lifelong habits. So if we want to change something culturally, like how we treat each other online, having that conversation early on is really important.
Yeah, and there is really some responsibility that parents probably have to take in this, because if they have guidelines on how long they can be on their devices or how long they can Facebook or Snapchat, whatever the case, at least you are, you know, putting up some parameters where that's not all that they're worried about, and you know, they spend all of their moments outside of class, you know, worried about social media. Yeah,
and we also know that girls really rely on their social support. And so, for example, when a girl's having an issue, she's more likely to go to a friend, for example, than an adult, a parent, or a teacher. And so there's that push-pull of, like, you want to make sure girls are building strong networks, probably both online and in person, but at the same time, you want to make sure those are safe spaces, and girls can get really competitive with each other. So really focusing on developing, I think, those girlfriend-friend relationships are really important.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And since we're talking about that, the one thing that I saw over the holidays, just dealing with family, and I kind of had to chuckle because I can only imagine how this young lady felt. She's in the 8th grade. All she wanted was a new, you know, a new cell phone for Christmas. And then the first thing her dad says is, yep, it's got Face ID, so my face needs to be on the ID thing too. And she just looked like, seriously? But that's what you have to do these days. You have to. So much goes on, and you kind of think they're talking to their friends and having fun, but sometimes who they think are their friends are somebody that they have no idea who it is.
It's so easy to have, you know, misrepresent yourself online.
Absolutely. So thank you for all of that information. And one last thing that I did want to talk about is kind of like more Wisconsin girls than boys are reporting suicidal planning and behaviors, as well as self-harm behaviors, which is scary for any parent to imagine.
Right, yeah, and those numbers are really disturbing because it's in the, you know, 16% range. And it kind of, you know, it builds on other mental health issues. So we're seeing more and more rates of anxiety especially among girls than boys. So when you look at the way the data comes in, there's like all youth, and then you can separate by gender as well, and girls are just reporting so much more issues with anxiety around ideas of suicide. And then the other thing we watch is self-harm. So self-harm is when someone is going to hurt themselves, not necessarily with the aim of killing themselves, but physically harming themselves. Those numbers are really high. So I think, you know, the data is there. I think that there are resources out there for girls related to mental health, and it's really about making sure, you know, we're talking about parents, making sure parents are open to hearing from their girls about how they're feeling. Anxiety, you know, anxiety is complex, right? Like, each of us has a little bit of anxiety each day. I might be having some right now. So we want to think about that and say, like, you know, the goal isn't to eradicate anxiety. The goal is to be resilient and to be able to work through those moments of anxiety and to have life skills that help us get through that moment. When you get to the arc where you're thinking about self-harm on a regular basis, real depression, so things that are limiting your ability to do your daily activities, and then to the extreme of suicide, you know, making sure that parents know that this is something that happens and that they need to be able to get their young people, daughters or sons, appropriate care
Yeah.
in that instance, and that it's not a dirty word, you know, like we've got mental health is really important for all of us.
Absolutely. And you know, what I think is important is if anyone watching would have the ability to kind of look at this report, so they can do that on your website.
You can.
And really kind of, you know, have a better idea of what's going on with the kids in general, and be able to know where to approach your own child, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and know that you're not alone with these
absolutely.
issues. So, and that there are resources out there to help support you and your daughter or son.
And your website address is?
Alverno.edu/research. So that's the main landing page. And we have an event coming up in March, the Girls Summit, which I'm really excited about. So this is an effort so that girls and also community members get a chance to respond to this together and to think about these issues together. So again, that's on our website, which is alverno.edu/research, and then if you want the whole thing /Girls Summit. But you can find it. It's all there. And honestly, a Google search with Alverno Girls Summit or Status of Girls, you'll find us.
That's awesome. So the Girls Summit is going to offer an opportunity to address the challenges that this report highlights. And while they're on your website, they can also find out more about the Alverno Forum that's coming up in February as well. You guys have a lot of great things going on. So I appreciate your time in coming here today and really enlightening us on what's going on with our women and girls.
Thank you so much for having us.
It's been a pleasure. Jodi Eastberg, Dr. Jodi Eastberg. She is the Executive Director of the Alverno College Research Center for Women and Girls. And for more information on anything we've discussed, again, you can go to their website at alverno.edu. When we return to our Issues Milwaukee, we'll turn our attention to a local organization that's goal is to build confidence, self-awareness, and gratitude for women and girls. We'll find out more about Bloom for Girls right after this.